2026 is going to be an awesome year. We got some pretty cool stuff coming up. First off, we got Foundations of Recovery. This is our flagship program. We're starting it in January.
This is for anyone, man, woman, or couple who wants to come and reclaim their heart from shame, trauma, and betrayal. We start off with an education on all sorts of principles, give you the common language. We feed you from a fire hose in terms of all things recovery.
It is such a great start to recovery. And we get at the roots of things, Tyler. This isn't like any other program. Like, this is our healing journey in process, and Foundations is where we begin.
If you look at the value that you're getting there to kick off a good recovery with all of the right education, all of the right language, and a team to get you started while also being directed by Brannon and myself through the whole process, what a deal.
So if you're interested, if you're struggling, if you've been wanting to do something for a long time, jump into this. This only comes around every so often, and we would love to have you there.
Click the link in the description to sign up for it. And to make it even sweeter, we're also including a raffle for a free pass to the Radiant Dawn retreat. Anyone who signs up for Foundations will be added to the raffle for that free Radiant Dawn pass. If you're a man and you sign up for Foundations, your name still gets entered, and you can give that pass away if you win it to any woman that you want to.
So what you're saying, Tyler, is if you sign up and participate in Foundations, you could possibly go to Radiant Dawn for free?
That's exactly what I'm saying, which is crazy because Foundations by itself is already an insane value.
Man, I sound so salesy. But it actually is awesome. So come to Foundations. And even if you don't come to Foundations, sign up for Radiant Dawn. It's beyond therapy, the best healing experiences that you can have.
Click the link below and come join us.
Hey guys, this is Brannon, the host of the Ask Brannon Anything show. This is the show where we take the most awkward, difficult, challenging questions that are keeping you stuck in your relationships and stuck in your addictions. We break them down, we discuss them, we validate you, we give advice, and we empathize. And most importantly, we help you find truth so you can get unstuck. If you have a question, whatever it may be, go to brannonpatrick.com and submit a question there for the show. What's up, guys? Today's topic is boundaries. So we are getting into depth a little bit as to what boundaries are. And hopefully I can clarify some things about boundaries because I think they're misunderstood. And some people, the reason I talk about boundaries a lot is because I get questions all the time about boundaries. How can I be a boundaried person? How can I be healthy with my boundaries? How can I show up authentic and real in my relationships? So let's dive right in. I have some questions here. First off, why boundaries are misunderstood or how boundaries are misunderstood. So boundaries oftentimes are thought as ways that I control the other person so that they don't hurt me, or walls that I put up, big barriers that I put up so that other people can't hurt me. And in fact, they're the opposite of that. Boundaries are not walls that you put up. Boundaries are actually acts of vulnerability. And now let me explain. If I'm a walled off person, then I'm totally isolated. And I'm not wanting to interact with people because I'm scared of connection and attachment. It's a way to play it safe. It's in terms of not getting hurt by other people. But in the end, you're really hurting because you're alone and you feel disconnected. So instead of putting up big walls, boundaries are actually acts of vulnerability. What that means is instead of not having boundaries and just complying and let people walk all over you, but instead of putting up walls, you're speaking your truth. You're showing up real, and you're actually putting yourself at risk of getting rejected or judged or anything or things like that when you are a boundaried person, because you're actually putting yourself out there to the world. So, however, those boundaries will protect you. You're being vulnerable, but those boundaries will protect you, and they don't have to be walls. So let me give you an example. Let's say I have a friend that did something mean to me. So I erased them from my phone. I never answered their calls, and I never talked to them again because they did something mean to me. Okay. I've now shut that friendship off. It's over. It's done. Finished. That would be a quick wall that I put up. Now, a healthy boundary might look the same, depending on what that friend did to me. But it really, it would be healthier for me to really understand within myself, why am I doing that? Why am I pushing that person away that much? Now, if a friend did something mean to me, maybe my boundary is that I need to express to them how it doesn't work for me and see how they respond. And let's say they say, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize. Let's talk about this. Then the boundary hasn't been broken as badly as I thought. Let's say they say, forget you, you're wrong, I don't care what you think. Thanks for expressing your feelings to me, but screw you. Now they've broken another boundary. So now I need to realize what's in my control, what's not in my control, and assert myself authentically. But the second example that I'm giving, you're actually going through a process of putting yourself out there. You're not just automatically walling up. So boundaries are not about control. They're not about walls. Okay. Next question. What do boundaries have to do with self-love? I get the question all the time, like, Brannon, I don't have boundaries. How do I have boundaries? And the actual answer to that is to love yourself and know yourself. Somebody who is confident in who they are, they're automatically boundaried. And we think that boundaries are me being able to say to somebody something like, don't do this, or that doesn't work for me. But in essence, boundaries are more of an energy thing. I show up in my energy with my boundaries, and people know, they can feel from me as to what works for me and what doesn't work for me. A bully's not going to bully me if I'm confidently boundaried. They might try a little bit, but they'll realize, whoa, his energy is not going to take my bullying. That's not going to work for him. And how do I get that energy? I get that energy through knowing who I am, through having confidence in myself and loving myself and showing up with that presence. And so boundaries are deep within us. They are internal, and they radiate out of us. And they're not just words that we say to people, but it's energy that we put out to the world. And that energy does come from self-love. And I'm going to talk about this a little bit more later, to talk about how do you raise that vibration? How do you create that self-love so that you can walk in a room with that type of energy? Okay. Okay, next question. Why is it so hard to go from no boundaries to healthy boundaries? It is really hard. And the reasons why it's hard is because you have certain faulty core beliefs and feedback loops that push you back into the non-boundaried way of living. If you believe that you're not worthy of love and you have to earn that love, then you're going to show up that way in your relationships over and over and over again. And so then all of a sudden, when you're in the dilemma of like, man, I'm trying to earn my love, but I also feel taken advantage of, shoot, I need a boundary. It's going to be really uncomfortable to step into being boundaried and honest with somebody and having some conflict with somebody, because that faulty belief underneath is saying, yikes, they might not like you, they might reject you, if you do have some conflict here with them. So you perpetuate this feedback loop of shame that then ends up in behaviors that are non-boundaries in your life. Now, you perpetuate it. Also, those around you, your relationships, know how you work, and they perpetuate it as well. So all of a sudden, when you go from being willing to be a doormat and getting walked on to not being willing to be a doormat, your family members and your relationships say, whoa, where's the old you? I want to take advantage of you. I want to do what I want to do with you because you've always been willing to do that. And when you don't, chances are they'll think something like this. Well, okay, they're acting tough, they're acting strong, but the reality is that strength isn't real. That integrity is not really there. So I'm going to push this button over here and it'll break it down. And so when you go from having no boundaries to being boundaried, especially your unhealthy friends and family members and spouses or whomever will try to get you back to that old unhealthy way of being because that's what they're used to with you. And so going from no boundaries to boundaries actually rocks your very world to the core, because all of a sudden your identity in your relationships starts to shift and starts to change. And so to step into an unknown world of a new identity in those relationships can be very uncomfortable. So realize that change is hard. If you're to the point where you're listening to this and you're thinking, yes, I need boundaries in my life. I get taken advantage of in my marriage. I get taken advantage of by my friends. I'm the caretaker. I'm always doing everything for everybody, and everybody can walk all over me. You're going to be in a dilemma, and that dilemma is I'm sick and tired of this, and I have resentment, and I want change, and oh shoot, this change is uncomfortable. And am I willing to walk through that fear and that uncomfortability of that change in order to not have this resentment anymore? And so I challenge you to practice it. And I'm going to give you some tools here in a minute, just some little things you can do to actually practice it. And you're going to realize that when you step into that new identity in your relationships, it's uncomfortable, but it's also empowering, and it feels really, really good. You realize I'm not going to die when I'm honest in my relationships. I actually feel more empowered and more love when I'm honest in my relationships, even though all those around me are freaking out. I can do this, okay? Okay, next question. What is the difference between boundaries and ultimatums? There's not a difference. Boundaries are ultimatums in a lot of ways. It really depends on your intent behind why you're doing what you're doing here, okay? So, but if I say to a friend, look, if you keep taking advantage of me, I'm not going to be able to spend time with you. That won't work for me. That's an ultimatum, but it might be an act of self-love and self-compassion. So to be willing to say, I'm going to step into that is an ultimatum, but it's also a healthy boundary. Now, if you're doing it not from a place of self-compassion, but you're doing it from a place of control and manipulation, then that ultimatum is unhealthy. If I say, you better do this or I won't do that, and I'm just trying to get them to do something, then that is unhealthy. Okay? Last question. What is the one thing that can help me to start having boundaries? So it comes back to what I was saying earlier about your energy and about your self-love. When you do boundary work, a lot of times people will say, I'm going to write down a list of everything that my partner can't do anymore. And I would say start deeper than that. Start with your own affirmations. Start feeding yourself good thoughts about you. Start practicing just small acts of courage, whether they have to do with your boundaries or not, but just get used to stepping into some uncomfortable, and realize when you step into that uncomfortable, it's not that scary. Realize who you actually are through repeating your affirmations to yourself. Practice stepping into what those affirmations are telling you. And as you do that, you're going to realize, I can do this. I can be honest in my relationships even when it's uncomfortable. I don't need to get my self-worth from other people. that self-worth comes from within. It comes from my connection to God. And because I know that, then I can surrender over other people's reaction or response to me. They can react and respond however they want. I'm just being honest with them. I'm just being grounded. I'm being authentic with them. And I'm okay. I am enough. Okay? So the one thing that I would say to help with your boundaries and to be a boundaried person is to figure out how to love yourself incredibly, how to trust yourself, how to know yourself, and forgive yourself and have grace with yourself so that you can show up empowered and authentic and honest in your relationships. You guys, this was a quick rundown of boundaries. I have a course at brannonpatrick.com called Boundary Bootcamp. It's only $10. It's actually $9.99, where I get into more depth about what boundaries are. And there's assignments, there's worksheets, there's things that you can work through so that you can start to practice this. So go check that out, brannonpatrick.com. Also, if you want to submit any questions for me for the podcast, go to @Brannon_Patrick on Instagram. And please go rate and review this podcast and share it with anybody that you think it would be helpful for. You guys have a great day, and I'll talk to you later. See ya.